Let me quickly come to you now. It says the conversation is that government is not responding in the manner that organized labor wants. Let's get a sense of what that is exactly, such that viewers can understand. Then we'll move forward from there.
Well, I don't want to go into the background because, when the committee was set up, for us to look at it after Mr. President have announced the removal of fuel subsidy and the apprehensions that followed. But, after that series of meetings here and then, and Mr. President came up and then made announcements since August that there's going to be palliatives, which the workers were happy and the nation was in high that there's hope. But, suddenly Mr. President announced 5 billion to states and thereafter released 2 billion to states and also promised the palliatives in area of intervention to the small and medium scale industry and even the manufacturing industry to give the subs loan, which was, so nothing on that has ever been mentioned since after the announcement. And you come to look at the federal workers, where the chunks of the workers are, there's no pronouncement by Mr. President as what is expected for the federal workers, even the issue of the buses that were to be, procured for at least to be spread among the states. So we just look at it as a mere pronouncement without an action plan for implementation. So these are areas which is our major focus. What we are trying to do is to help the economy because sometimes Mr. President may have good intention, but perhaps those who have assigned to carry out these implementations becomes the upper trust.
Right. So because government is saying that they have addressed some of the demands made, talking about the release of NERTW members of executive, that was part of the demands made by organized labor, the palliative you mentioned. And then the other demands that is being made by labor is the aspect of repair and activation of local refineries. And the government has said that they are looking at December 2023, this year, to address that some refineries will start working. And then there's the question of why is labor or organized labor not giving government the time to addressing these issues? Is organized labor trying to harass government? Is this fight really about the people?
Well, I think you've just rolled out what you've heard. I've also heard some. But have you been able to tell us, what is due for the federal workers? What about the wage award? Because as we are talking now, you can see the inflation rate. You can also look at the exchange rate. Then if your take-home pay remains static, and for since June till now, and nothing tangible has come, you've not even seen anything as a worker. How do you manage to pay your children's school fees? How do you manage to go to the office? How much is a cup of gari now? How much is a cup of rice now?
Are you aware of the inflation figures? Are you also aware that oftentimes when the government also looks at the matter of increment of salaries, that it also reflects on the inflation figures, and at the end of the day, this increments does not necessarily solve much of the problems that we are talking about?
We are not even talking about the increment of salary through the national minimum wage as of now, because it's a constitutional matter. We are talking about wage award. For instance, if you are taking home, let's say a minimum wage of 30,000, and you are taking that home, then you are expected to be in your workplace. Then by virtue of the removal of the fuel subsidy, every kobo you have is consumed by transport fare. So what do you make of, so these are issues. Let me also say that we are helping the government.
How?
We are helping the government because when you put up a policy, there's supposed to be an implementation agency with a timeline. We are also letting government know that, yes, we have to hold somebody accountable. As you are talking now, if the government had made this pronouncement and then point out to an agency that is implementation agency with the strategy that of the implementation with a timeline, we will have been able to hold somebody accountable. Because it is
in
difficult
the
for Mr.
meetings
President.
that you were having with government, did you make these suggestions?
Of course. Because you see, the good thing about policy, yes, we look at it and we also give the gestation period. But as we are talking, if there's a pronouncement for the federal workers, if we have seen these buses released, if we have seen the wage award, which is just to caution the effect, okay, for instance, you have made pronouncement for the states, 5 billion. What happened to the federal workers? I think we need to help the government, because if we don't strategically put the government on a foot, I mean, we are not helping the government. We are all players in the same economy. And that is what we are doing. If you look at the TUC NLC coming together now, it has been a ding-dong affair because we in the TUC has given government enormous time to look at this issue passionately. And we have been appealing. If you look at it, if you listen to and follow our antecedent, we've been appealing. We've never gone that, that route to say, okay, we are going on a full-blown strike. So these are issues. And we want government to live up to, the expectations. The masses, except you are from a different clime, my dear sister. But if you are from Nigeria, you will know what I'm talking, that we are not just talking
these CNG buses that you are speaking about is not a matter that began today. We recall that it began, I think, in 2021, that the government talked about introducing CNG buses. What did Labour do at the time to follow through with government to ensure it had delivered then, even before we got to this point?
Well, that is left for government to answer, because it is not our responsibility. Because like we are pushing now, we are pushing, and everybody knows that we are pushing government to do the needful. When government become recalcitrant, it's called for concern of everybody. We are not looking at an issue of time. In fact, the challenges facing Nigeria now is for everybody to wake up to the responsibility.
Absolutely.